5. Says an error occurred. Well, let's just see about that. All right, looks like we're live. All right, cool. Thank you guys for hanging out, checking this stream out. We're going to be creating some 3D posts for Facebook using some of my artwork here. And this is the... Whoops, there we go. Get this pen here. This is the piece I'm working on, and the way that I go about creating art anyways is by using layers, and then like each character here, so like the druid warrior here in the front, that's all one PNG that I saved out, as well as the bear and the wolf, and then the background is also on its own layer. So I can toggle these on and off. You can do this in Photoshop, you could do this in Krita, you could do this in Paint.net, Penta, Paint Tool SAI. Let me just make sure the stream's working out here. Looks good. Okay. And so it's not a very difficult or technically challenging once I figured out how Facebook works with depth maps. All right, so that's essentially what I'm doing here is I'm going to create a depth map. So I've already done that, done a grayscale depth map for my background, and it's really straightforward. Basically, things that are further away from the viewer or the camera are darker in tone, so they have more black or darker grays, and things that are closer to the camera, Facebook will interpret as closer to the camera, things that are lighter in color or lighter in tone. So white is going to be closest to the camera, black is going to be furthest away from the camera. So I want to layer these in a way that will make sense for Facebook's 3D post magic. All right. So the wolf is actually behind the druid, but in front of the bear. So I'm going to grab the druid first. I like the way that Paint.net does its document handling. So I have these thumbnails right up here of my open documents. So from my finished artwork that I saved out as transparent PNGs, I've created this composite. And what I'm going to do now is take this composite, because I like this arrangement, and create a depth map for this piece of art. So let's copy the wolf layer here and make sure that I have a new layer. This is the druid. Okay, so I'll create a new layer and then paste that wolf into its own layer. There it is. All right, so I'm just going to deselect that. Now, Photoshop definitely has some advantages here as far as like being able to select everything on that layer, all but the transparent pixels. It's just one extra step really in Paint.net. I can select all of the transparent pixels by just selecting anything other than my object here. Holding Shift, I can select all of transparent pixels, and then I just invert that selection with Control-I. All right, so I've got the wolf. I want it to be behind the druid. All right, so I'm going to pull my layer underneath there. I'll go ahead and rename this as well. Name it wolf. And I'm going to do a very simplified depth map. I just really want to separate the subjects, not like, you know, have like the weapon being a different depth range than the character or any of that. Just the characters themselves, just sort of arrange them in 3D space. So the wolf's going to be not white, it can be slightly darker than this character in the front. So I'm going to choose a gray, get a big brush here, and then just fill it in. And it's not going to go outside of the lines as long as I have that selection there. All right, there we go. And it still is lighter than my background, so I think we're going to be good. All right, we'll do the same thing with the bear. I'll grab the bear layer, back to my other document here, create a new layer above my background, paste in the bear, go ahead and rename it. All right, deselect that, go to my magic wand tool, hold shift and select anything outside of the bear itself. We'll select all the transparent pixels, control I to invert that selection so I have just the bear. And what I can do now is grab a darker gray. So it's darker than the wolf, also darker than the druid, but lighter than the background. Now it's not actually a whole lot lighter than the background, but still you can kind of see what I'm going for here, right? All right, so now what I'm going to do is just test this out. All right, so I just need to save this as an image file. I like the PNG format. So this is going to be, I'll drop this down here to PNG. Okay, and it'll be, I'm just gonna name it art. And this is the trick right here for creating these 3D posts from your computer. Underscore depth. Underscore depth. And I'm just gonna save that to the desktop. And Paint.net will ask, you know, do you really want to flatten this as a PNG? Because what it will do is then open the PNG that you just saved as your new document. You can just undo that with a Control-Z so you have your layers again. All right, so there's my depth map sitting there on my desktop. Very, very simple, grayscale image. Lighter things in the front or foreground, darker things in the background. All right, then we need to save this one. So I'll just save this one as a PNG as well. And make sure you name it the same file name without the underscore depth. So I named this one art underscore depth. This one's just going to be art. Okay, I'll save this as a PNG as well. All right, let's go to Facebook and test this out. I'm also going to open up my chat here and just see if anybody has any questions. I think that on my last stream there was a question that came in right as I was ending the stream. So if anybody else is watching, that was watching last time, drop your comments or questions in the chat. That'd be great. I'm using Paint.net, the latest version. But like I said, it really doesn't matter. What makes it easier with these kinds of programs. Paint.net is free, and so that's partly why I'm showing it here, because it supports layers. Now you could do this without layers; it would just be very tedious. You'd actually have to paint in those different shapes. All right. So now I'm just going to grab both of these image files from my desktop. Go to Facebook, create a new post. Drag and drop them right in here. And as long as I've named them correctly, it will upload them and then begin to generate a 3D photo. There it goes, creating a 3D photo. And what I like to do is just have Facebook open while I'm doing this and test it out. So that looks pretty cool. I'm just going to zoom in on this so that you can see this. Whoa, there it is. So I've got the background there working in 3D space, and each character here is also overlapping one another. That's really what I was going for. So that looks great to me. So I'm just going to give this a name and then post it up on Facebook. Very cool. I really like how that turned out. Now you could adjust this. Maybe you wanted the wolf to feel like it was popping out a little less, or maybe a little more. You can't get any closer to the camera than white, and you can't get any further than absolute black. So all of the grays in between there is what Facebook is interpreting as, you know, as depth in between those two extremes. All right, guys, I hope this helped you out. If you're trying to create 3D posts with your own artwork or photographs, this will work with photographs as well. One of the things that has made this easier for me is the way that I've set up my artwork, so that because I've already, you know, created the artwork and saved out each character or object as separate PNG files, I can just drag and drop them right into a new canvas in Paint.net, and then have this depth map canvas and work back and forth here. So that's pretty cool. Let's go to the chat and just see if there's any comments or questions. I don't think so. I think we're good. But I hope that yeah, I hope this helped answer the question. I think the question last time was, how do I create gradients? Okay, that's what it was. How do I create gradients? So you can actually create gradients. For this one, it really didn't. I didn't create any gradients, but let's say I wanted to, for like her spear here. Maybe I wanted it to look like, you know, that the spearhead here was closer to the camera than the handle, or something, like, you know, it's at an angle and the spear's coming more towards the camera. So what I can do actually is I'll go back to the Druid here, select all of it, and there's a gradient tool here in Paint.net. Okay, and what it's going to do is use these swatches, the foreground and background color, and I want to have white as the foreground and not this quite of a dark gray. Let's say I'll use the same gray as the wolf, right? And so then I'm just going to drag this gradient out. So white is going to be closest again to the camera. So I'm going to say that this spearhead here is really the closest thing to the camera. Like it's at an angle coming towards the camera. And this gradient is going to be pushing everything back. So almost like the wolf and the Druid character here are on the same plane. It's just the spear that's coming towards the camera. So if I did something like this, have this gradient here, let's just see how that works. All right. So I just need to resave my depth map. Nothing has changed as far as positioning of my original artwork. I'm just going to re-upload the depth map. So I'm going to save over that PNG, and we'll see what happens with that spear. It could be subtle. It may work, it may not work, and that's why I like to test it out. Okay, go back to Facebook. We'll create a new post. And again, just uploading both of these image files. Facebook does the rest. And it's really nice that it gives you a preview, because this is what I'll do, or have been doing now for the last couple of tries, is I'll just have this preview generate the... See, that's pretty cool. See how the spear looks like it's actually at an angle, and it's in front of the wolf. It doesn't look like it's quite so flat, right? So that's kind of neat. I'm not going to share this one right now, but that will give you some idea of how gradients will work. So the spear is closer in the foreground here. The head of the spear is closer than the rest of this character. And all I did was select my object, create a gradient from white to a light gray. It was the same gray as the wolf here, so it kind of gives the illusion that this spear is protruding out further than the character that's holding it. Pretty cool. So it's really been a lot of fun kind of playing with these depth maps. Again, just to kind of simplify and review, all you need to upload a 3D photo from your computer, from a desktop or a laptop, is an original image and a depth map, a grayscale image that represents depth, foreground to background, from white to black. And that's it. Thank you guys for watching. My dogs are barking. Bye for now.